Welcome back. There's an international meeting today, mostly virtual, to engage European leaders and policymakers in the Abraham Accords. So with us now is Omri Attar from ELNET.
Hello.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Well, tell us about this organization. What did you do today in order to facilitate this?
Great. Thank you very, very much for having me. ELNET stands for European Leadership Network. So we're trying to bring the leadership network to become more pro-Israeli in the European continent. Today's event was not only virtual, it was hybrid, just to correct that. ELNET is bringing or facilitating people, policymakers from Europe and Israel to come closer together. Today's meeting or today's event conference was about the Abraham Accords and trying to bring Israelis, European officials, together with American officials to talk and to put the Abraham Accords, in front of the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. We brought policymakers from Israel, the ambassadors, foreign ambassadors from all Abraham Accords countries, and tried to discuss current issues and most urgent matters.
Like what? Like what kind of issues? What bothers them?
First of all, I maybe want to mention that this was the first in-person meeting in the past couple of years because of COVID that took place with the same topic of the Abraham Accords in the center. We tried to bring three different sectors, from the public sector, private sector, but from the non-profit sector, and to discuss current issues such as business, political, cultural exchange, but also to talk how we can bring the Abraham Accords into the European continent and to make the European understand that they need to endorse this.
Right. Why? Because it was like an American initiative and you need to bring the Europeans more inside?
In some sort. And we understand that without the European endorsement or removing some, I would say, hurdles or elements that differentiate Israel from the Abraham Accords, we need to bring Europe closer to the table, specifically on that topic.
Okay. We're talking about business or policy or both?
It's much more policy-oriented, but since the Abraham Accords basis was based on business and trade agreements, we do want to differentiate a little bit towards policy-making processes, but also bringing cross-sectors working together on this.
Now, any definitive action as opposed to just discussions?
That's a great question. That's maybe the main topic of our work. We are directing ourselves toward policy making, not only having conferences or doing delegations. We do want to see some impact in the longer range and the longer term. Some of the participants today actually announced that they're going to bring to a decision in the European Parliament to endorse the Abraham Accords. And we see caucuses or friendship groups specifically dealing with the Abraham Accords with Israel all across the European continent. So with the efforts of ELNET and other players in this game, we do believe that more and more European countries will support this Abraham Accords.
Right. Give me just a general idea, what kind of fields do you see this cooperation, this triangle of Europe, the Gulf states and Israel working on?
Of course. I would say first and foremost the business orientation. Well, Abu Dhabi and Dubai opened the trade attaché in Israel socially and independently from the government. And I think the exchange that we can have, not only in tourism, Israel is left to say that they went to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, but not only on tourism, the business exchange can be enormous for Israeli companies, but also for Emirati companies, but not only. We know the Abraham Accords bringing Egypt and Jordan, although they are not part of the bigger sum of the Accords, closer to Israel. So we see Moroccan involvement, we see Bahrain, we see the UAE, and of course Egypt and Jordan bringing much more businesses and investing in Israeli companies in Israel. Nonetheless, on the policy side, we see the Arabs or the Arab countries from the Abraham Accords want to invest much more in Israel cultural agreements and much more with trade agreements and also with political exchanges. So we see it all around the table right now.
Now, there's talk about maybe, bringing in more countries to the Abraham Accords. On the other hand, we know the European policies towards Israel and the Palestinians, very clear, two states and so on. How was that discussed today in a way?
Some say it's the elephant in the room, but some say it's the elephant outside of the room. So obviously it is part of the conversation. I think this is why mainly Europe is being reluctant of supporting it or endorsing these accords out loud and outspokenly. With that said, I think the disconnection the American or the past administration and the American government made of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with the Abraham Accords made that a success And that doesn't mean that they don't need to discuss the conflict or to deal with it. With that said, the disconnection between the two is necessary in order just to understand that there is a lot of will and power of bringing the accords more.
And the Europeans will go with that?
I think so. Not easy, but this is why ELNET and other players in the game is trying very, very hard.
Omri Attar from ELNET organization, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Great.